Period. Hey, we're doing a March reading wrapped. I feel like I was in a slump this month, which is crazy because I read 11 books. So maybe I wasn't in a slump, but I felt like I was. I felt like I kind of had to force myself to read. Hey, we're just gonna get right into it because who the fuck even watches this anyways? I'm doing this for myself. This is like a cathartic experience. I'm wearing my Throne of Glass sweatshirt, just in case you didn't notice. Let's talk about what I read this month. I read Taming 7. This is keeping 13, but I read Taming 7. These books are big. I don't think I realized because I read on my Kindle. Taming 7. It's my least favorite of the Boys of Tommen so far. It is Gibbsy and Claire's story. But honestly, I don't have much to say about this story except that I really wanted to be sympathetic to Lizzie. This book made it really hard. I think they were really hammering home the point of like, just because she has been through a lot does not mean that that is a justification for why she treats people the way that she does. Going back to Shannon too and being like, look at how much Shannon has been through and she does not treat people that way. This was a hard read because of Lizzie, and especially when you get to know Gibbsy a little bit more and get to know his story a little bit more. I want fucking Lizzie to redeem herself. However, I am upset that this is like gonna be a cheating trope because it just is, and my poor girl Katie deserves so much better. I also am glad Gibbsy got redemption, and I'm glad that we got to see more of Gibbsy and Johnny's friendship in this book. I thought it was really sweet. So that is that. I gave it a 4 stars. My lowest rating of the series so far. I just don't think anything is ever going to compare to Joey and Aoife. Those books they just ruined me. Then I read The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. I have yet to read an Elle Kennedy book that I don't like. I wouldn't say I didn't like this book. I would just say I am not a wide shoes girl. My monogamous brain did not like this book. If you don't know what this is about, our main character is named Charlie. Duh. She meets these 2 guys on an app, and these 2 guys are Will and Beckett, who are known for like hooking up with a girl at the same time. I don't know. But not in a like a gay way. Anyway, Charlie meets them. She develops friendships with them both separately, and then they all kind of like fall in love with each other, so she has 2 boyfriends. Here are my issues with this book. I feel like I didn't know Will, one of these guys, at all. Like, I was reading this book and I was like, she likes Beckett better. The whole time I was like, she likes Beckett better. I see their connection more. And I feel like Will was just kind of there for a lot of the time. I don't know if I'm the only one that felt that way. I just don't think I'm a wide shoes girl. I gave this 3 stars. I probably wouldn't recommend it. It's like a really cute book, so I'm glad I have it, but like, it's probably my least favorite by her so far. Wild Side by Elsie Silver. Bitch. I devoured this book in 12 hours. This is a small town, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, marriage of convenience. Oh, and it's so good. The only thing I have to say about this book is that the wrestling plotline, like, because he's a professional wrestler, our main character is, oh, it was so cringe. I had to skip those parts, and I did because I was like, I can't let my man Reese be ruined for me. If I read those parts, I think it would have ruined him. It gave me the ick really badly when I did try to read it. Like, especially the scene where she's listening to him do it, I'm like, oh god, I hate this. So yeah, but anyway, I did love this book. I thought it was really sweet. It was really heartwarming. The slow burn was slow burning. Because I enjoyed Chestnut Springs and Rose Hill so much by Elsie Silver, I was like, okay, I need to read her first series. I need to have read all of her books. Started with Off to the Races. This is book 1 in the Gold Rush Ranch series. This felt like reading Flawless all over again. The main character was literally Rhett. Like, Vaughn was literally Rhett. This was insta-lust for me, and I did not like it. I just thought it was boring. Like, just kind of played it out loud while I was doing a puzzle. I was like, okay. I don't think I would ever, like, force myself to read this, but listening to it is fine. It was just fine. That's really all I have to say about it. Elsie does a really great job at our side characters not being black and white. Like, there's always these like morally gray characters that get introduced that our main characters have to deal with. I really like those plots, We had another one of them here. I don't feel like it was explored very much. Our main character, Billy, she reminded me a lot of Willa, and then Vaughn reminded me a lot of Rhett. So, give it 3.5 stars. I would probably give it 3, to be honest, at this point. So then I read A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. I also gave this 3 stars. I thought it was weird that this wasn't the only time that I've read this type of plotline, where people meet from sexy chatting online. I don't know. I was like, why? I've read this before. Why has this been done before? I've talked about several times now how there is Hot Grumpy and there's Annoying Grumpy. Cole, he was Annoying Grumpy. Everyone was like, he's like Cade, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I enjoyed Cade way more as a character because I understood where he was coming from. I thought that Violet was not being fair to Cole in the end. The man clearly has PTSD and everyone else was being sensitive to it, and when they were being sensitive to it, she was like, you're taking his side. I'm like, girl, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Of course they're taking his side. He's traumatized. Like, he's not doing this because he's trying to hold you back from anything. Like, he clearly has some unresolved shit he needs to work through. And I just feel like she was just not kind about it. It just kind of upset me. I also put that I weirdly liked Billy more in this book than I did in her own book. The Frontrunner. The Frontrunner. I gave this a 2 stars because it had potential, but it just biffed it. It was insta-love. It was insta-love between 2 characters who had the perfect setup to be enemies to lovers. Perfect. They spend 2 books building up Stefan to be this horrible person that everybody hates. But Mira, right at the beginning of the book, is like, well, I know he's not that bad. Why? That's something you're supposed to come to later, girl. This was insta-love, and it really annoyed me. What ruined this book for me was the 3rd act breakup. And I normally don't mind a 3rd act breakup. I don't like it when a book is just fine and dandy all the way through. This 3rd act breakup was so fucking stupid. And I'm gonna have to give spoilers, I'm sorry, because I'm still mad about it. Mira finds out that Hank, another one of these side characters, is Stefan's biological father. She doesn't know for sure, like she just kind of is guessing just based on what they've both said. She's like, I'm not going to tell Stefan until I actually know this for sure, because that would be insane for me to just bring that up on like the fact that Stefan's mom loved a bartender once upon a time and they kind of look alike. Like that is not enough to go off of to completely derail someone's life. So Mira, logically, does not tell him. He acts like she is Satan herself when he realizes that she knew. It ruined his entire character for me. I was so furious. I'm sorry. I was just... What was she supposed to do? And she, like, internalized it, too. She's like, wow, yeah, I should have told him. No, girl. No, you should not have. That would have been insane. I don't know, that whole plotline made me so mad, and I think it ruined the book. There was also, like, they said there was gonna be fake dating in this. No. There was one scene. There was literally one scene. This is not fake dating. Like, if you're looking for fake dating, go anywhere else. I was so mad reading this book that I don't know if I'm gonna read. What's the last book called? This is The Frontrunner. I can see the cover in my head, it doesn't matter. I don't think I'm gonna read it. I'm just angry. So I gave that a 2 stars, and I think that's generous. The Butterfly Garden. This book was amazing. I found this on Goodreads. Like, Goodreads suggested this to me, and I don't normally listen to Goodreads. This time I did. Wow. This has put me in a thriller slump. I read this in a day. I love to have a day where I just like sit down and read an entire thriller book because they're just so easy. It's like the only type of book I can do that with. I read this in a day. I was so obsessed with it. The plot is basically about a serial killer who kidnaps girls from when they're 16 to 21, and he calls them his butterflies, and he tattoos their backs and puts butterflies on their backs, and then when he kills them, he keeps them in glass cases. It's crazy. Like, it's sick in the head, obviously. But as I have said before, my criteria for a good thriller, you have to meet 2 categories, and one of them is way more important than the other. You need to be entertaining all the way through, and you need a good, like, whoa, didn't see that coming moment, plot twist moment. This book, the plot twist was mediocre. It was like, oh, okay. I don't think it added much to the story, but the story itself was so good that I didn't even care. It goes back and forth between the modern day detective interview with one of the girls who lived in the Butterfly Garden, and then back in time to her perspective of when she was actually living there. And you know at the beginning that they obviously escaped, that the guy's in custody, so then they're just walking through the whole story. Oh, it's amazing. By Dot Hutchison. I don't know if I said that. Oh, it is amazing, 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 amazing. It was gross, obviously. Check your trigger warnings. It gets dark. All of the things you expect this man to do, he does. There's a lot of interesting side plots, though. You meet so many unique characters. Oh, I just loved it. I'm still chasing that high. Because after that, I was like, I am in a thriller mood. Like, I'm ready to read another thriller. I wanted to do another one on my Kindle. So I chose Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane. It also had the audiobook, so I was like, sweet. Like, I can just listen to this when I'm going about my day. I thought this was going to be more serial killer vibes. You learn right at the beginning of the story that this woman's husband, a drunk driver crashes into her house, and because the drunk driver crashes into her house, they obviously look through her house, and they find out that her husband has been kidnapping and torturing and murdering women in his garage. That's where our story starts. He's in jail at the beginning of the story. She is basically on the run because everyone thought she was guilty. She got acquitted, but everyone thought she was guilty too. They're like, you had to have known about this. She didn't. And the whole story is basically just her on the run. And it's really fucking boring. Her and her 2 kids. They move to a place called Stillhouse Lake. 2 more bodies turn up. They're trying to figure out, like, is someone following them? There's like a few mini plot twists along the way that I was like, oh, okay. Like enough to keep me semi-engaged, but I would not recommend this book. I thought it was really boring. It is part of a series. That's the credit that I'm going to give it. So something happens at the end, like there's some sort of resolution at the end, and then it ends on a cliffhanger. I'm not going to continue the series. I don't think a thriller series makes sense to me unless it's done really well, and I don't think this was. I thought this book was really boring, which is too bad because it's rated really highly. Like, I was kind of excited. I heard it was good, but no. Next, we're going to talk about Kiss of the Basilisk. Guys, I don't know what came over me that made me read this book. It is the most unhinged book I've ever read. I would never recommend it to anybody. It is also the smuttiest book I have ever read. By the halfway point, I was skipping through the scenes because not only was it every chapter, it was like a majority of the chapter. I was like, oh my god, we get it. Move on. I don't need to be all up in your business like that. I just need to tell you the plot of this book because it's batshit fucking crazy. And you know what? At first I was like, this is crazy. I'm going to DNF it. But then I went, I'm actually along for the ride. Okay, so the plot of this book. In this society, the basilisks and the humans live in harmony, kind of. The basilisks, like, live in a cave. Basilisks are, like, snake people, by the way, and I'm gonna keep saying it wrong, and you're gonna give me grace. The prince of this society is getting married, and apparently when the prince gets married, all of the women in town that are his age compete to be his wife, and like he chooses who he wants to be his wife. They have to go through training. Let me tell you what the training is. Basilisks train the women on how to have sex so that they can impress the prince. Yeah, so we're already off to an insane start. You meet our main character, her name's Tem. She's insufferable. She is absolutely insufferable. I couldn't stand her the entire way through. She is like every stereotypically annoying female main character in fantasy books that I've ever read. She's just so annoying. She's like, you're not gonna tell me what to do. Hey, in any other scenario, that would get you fucking killed. She's going up to the king, both the Basilisk king and the king of the human society, and she's like, fuck you, I'm not doing what you say. And they just let her walk away. I'm like, shut up. She won't wear fancy dresses. Like, I mean, it's just... Every once in a while, I was like, okay, maybe this book has an interesting plot, and then something fucking stupid happens, like, oh, she has to fuck her Basilisk love's dad for some reason in front of the entire society of basilisks. Like, I'm like, come on, man. I'm reading it by myself, and I'm embarrassed. It is just absurd. Like, she just takes it too far. This author takes it too far over and over and over and over again. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean she has to have sex with the love interest's dad in front of everybody? Why? I don't know anything about basilisks. Apparently that's like a known type of creature. I'm like, is this normal? I don't think it is. Yeah, the author just basically decides to throw in a new stupid fucking rule every few chapters, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Anyway, I would recommend this book to literally nobody. It has a love triangle. It is It's so smut heavy. And I like spice in my books, but like this was, I was like, we need to relax. Let's talk about Done and Dusted. I actually just finished this today. This reads like a children's book. Like, first of all, just look at how big the font is. And it's really short. Let me find the end of the book because it looks longer than it is and it looks really short. None of this is like book. It's just this. It was a very quick read. It took me a week, but like low-key, I just didn't want to pick it up every day. I was really digging the brother's best friend vibes. It's been a while since I've read a book like that. It was kind of cringe. I think the spice scenes in this specifically were very cringe, and I had to skip through them as well. Maybe I just don't have tolerance for spice anymore. I don't know. The stuff he was saying, I was like, okay, like, can we not? There's sort of insta-love vibes in this, but I don't hate it because it's kind of like they've known each other their whole lives, so it's kind of set up that way. It was okay. It was a fun enough time. I gave it 3 stars. I'm going to continue the series. I don't have super high hopes, but here's what I need to ask people. My friends saw this cover and they started laughing at me and the name, and they thought this was like gonna be the horniest book in the world. It was not. And I just was like, what? Like, I don't know. You find out that the title is actually something very meaningful and impactful, and I was like, does this look really horny? Can you guys please tell me? I have the next 2 books behind me. I'm assuming it's gonna be the other 2 brothers. It's gonna be Teddy and the brother that hates her, like, duh. Now let's talk about what I've really been wanting to talk about. Red Rising. I was crying within the first 50 pages of this. Within the first 50 pages. I was like, excuse me? Why am I already so attached to these characters 50 pages in? I also said a 16-year-old in a book is more romantic than men in real life. Welcome back, Johnny Kavanaugh. Because the way the MMC talks about his wife is obviously very beautiful, but then also just the way that Pierce Brown writes is stunning. From the beginning, I was just totally enraptured with how he writes. It's really reminiscent to me of how I felt about Jessa Hastings' writing, like just how he explains human emotion, how he paints these images of the relationships between these characters. Oh, it was just beautiful. This book is so relevant to today's day and age, like especially our current political climate, that it's insane. There was several comments about how these different groups are getting pitted against each other when in reality they should be on the same team, and I was like, damn, that sounds familiar. There was a comment about slavery that was like, wow. So it's this interaction where he's basically being like, yeah, they're slaves, that's terrible, and he goes, yeah, but they didn't know that they were slaves, like this is all they knew and they're happy, so like should we even tell them that they're slaves? And you're sitting there reading that, you're like, wow, that's actually a good point. And then the next point is there shouldn't be slaves in the first place. And I was like, oh shit. Whoa, you got me there, bitch. I don't know. Just the way that he writes is incredible. This was my first sci-fi read and I am hooked. And I'm super excited because I loved this book so much and everyone's like, just wait till book 2. I was gonna take a break. I don't think I am now. I also soft DNF'd a book this month. When the Moon Hatched. I soft DNF'd it literally 50% of the way through. This author set up such a great plot for a slow burn between these 2 characters, and we're getting that slow burn, the plot is developing, and then she's jumping on him all of a sudden. And I'm like, I just felt like it made no sense with the plot, and I know it isn't insta-love, because I mean, seriously, how many pages did I get in? 300? Not insta-love, it had been developing, but I was still like, no, I needed a little bit more of a burn than that. I needed a little bit more of a slow burn. Especially because this is such a heavy fantasy world. I literally had to tab so much shit because there's so much lore that you need to know to read this book. I wanted it to be more fantasy heavy, and then all of a sudden they're jumping each other's bones, and I was like, well, now I'm annoyed. I was really excited when I started this book. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this. Like, I'm really feeling like I'm gonna love this. And then that happened, and I was just like, I have no motivation to pick it back up. That's what keeps me going, man. That slow burn keeps me coming back for more. For one little glimpse, one little crumb of affection between the 2 characters. And they just gave it to me too quickly. Yeah, and he's like, I'm not gonna, be physical with you unless you tell me you care about me. I'm like, why do you care if she cares about you? You barely know her. I have soft DNF'd it for now. Maybe I'll pick it back up, but I don't know. I have so many other fantasies that I want to read first. Like, I finally picked up Mistborn. I also picked up Legendborn, which I'm so excited about because everyone's talking about book 3 right now, obviously, and I'm nothing if not a bandwagon, and I have heard only good things about this series, so I'm so excited. What else am I going to read next month? I'm really trying not to go into a slump. I'm going to finish the Red Rising trilogy, probably, knowing myself. Oh my god, but there's so many releases next month. The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I still need to read Never. I should probably do that, huh? Conditions of Will, Great Big Beautiful Life, Say You'll Remember Me. Oh, it's such a good month. I'm the most excited for Great Big Beautiful Life, though. Because I loved Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Some people didn't love it. I did. I love a gay plot twist. I think it's like a really genius story. So I'm excited to see the romance intertwined with that. And I love my girl Emily Henry, so y'all already know. I'm so excited. That is what I read in March. I'm bad at filming YouTube videos. Sorry about that, guys. It's just like a lot of work to edit them, and I'm lazy. And about to go to law school, and about to embark on the busiest month of my year. So, love y'all. I have a hole in my thumb, so don't look too closely at my nails. Oh my god, did you like my new book setup too, by the way? You see that natural light? Anyway, love y'all.